to the Home and Away podcast. This is episode 10. We finally made it to double digits. Caleb, how do you feel?
Man, I'm so excited to get to double digits. This has been a lot of fun. I hope the listeners are enjoying it even half as much as we're enjoying recording these things.
Yeah, it's been a good time, and we made it to double digits. So that's a start. Maybe one day we'll make it to triple digits. We'll see. You never know. It could happen. But we have a very special conversation for you guys today about a big issue that's been in social media and mainstream media actually the past few days, going on about the name, image, and likeness issues and some of the issues with players not being able to benefit off their birthright, their name, image, and likeness. And we have a very special guest coming in and a conversation with him that hopefully will educate a lot of you guys and I know helped us learn a lot. So we've got Dustin Maguire coming on today, and he's one of the people at the forefront of the name, image, and likeness movement. And we couldn't be more excited to have him on. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and enjoy the interview.
Joining us now, former college basketball player, a cancer survivor, current lawyer, and a leader in the name, image, and likeness movement, Dustin Maguire. Dustin, thanks for joining us today. How are we doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on, Caleb. I'm excited to be with you guys.
Yeah, and I just want to say to start with, for elementary, middle school me, this is probably the most exciting guest that we could have ever had on. For those of you who don't know, being from Bethalto, growing up around the age that I was, Dustin Maguire was my hero. So he is actually the reason I wore number 44 when I played basketball. So most people look up to pro athletes. I literally looked up to the guy I rebounded for at the Boys and Girls Club and who played high school basketball in our town. So it is a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, no, he was a big factor in me, deciding to go play for Gateway Basketball Club, and then also realizing that, it's not all about going D1 all the time. D2 opportunities are great as well. So always been someone I looked up to and someone that, has meant a lot to my career without really maybe knowing, to be honest. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Jacob. I appreciate hearing you say that. And it means a lot from both of you guys. I told my wife I had to do this on a Saturday. I remember very well you guys hanging out after games, getting autographs and high fives and all that. So great memories around the Boys and Girls Club. And again, it's exciting to reconnect with you guys.
Absolutely. Of course. So just a little bit about your background. Went to CM for 3 years, transferred your senior year to Edwardsville High School. You guys went to the state tournament. I believe got knocked out in the Elite Eight. Is that correct?
Yes, we lost to Chicago Marshall, who Patrick Beverly played for. So if you're going to go down, you want to go down to the guy who's going to make it in the NBA, right?
Did Pat Bev lock you up in that game? Is he on you?
No, I don't remember him guarding me. I think I played pretty well. I want to say I had 24.
Yeah.
But he had more than 24 and they won. So yeah, it was a tough loss, but great experience to make it to the state, obviously.
What was that process like for you, like transferring as a high schooler? What kind of went into that, and like what was that experience like for you?
I mean, it was a challenge, no doubt. I mean, to step into a new program, very well established program with Edwardsville, and a lot of people might not know I grew up in Edwardsville as a kid, and much like you guys would hang out at the CM games, that was me, going to the Edwardsville Tiger basketball games as a kid. So I always looked up to Coach Waldo and his program, and they had a great team that year that I joined. So it was exciting, and again, we had a great run, made it to state. We were 30-0 until we lost to Chicago Marshall.
Right. And then from there, graduate and go to SLU. When did you commit to SLU? What was that decision like? What was the final deciding factor for you to go to SLU?
Well, I was playing AU for St. Louis Gateway, and Brad Soderberg was the coach at the time and started recruiting me, I think, at the end of my sophomore year. So by my junior year, it really was seeming like a great opportunity, to stay close to home and play big time college basketball. They were just getting ready to build the Chaffetz Arena, so it was an exciting time. And Coach Soderberg signed, I want to say, a 5-year contract my junior year. So I was looking at it thinking, he's guaranteed to be there. Little did I know he wouldn't make it, past my freshman year. But that experience honestly is kind of what opened my eyes to the business that is college basketball, because again, he had signed the 4 or 5 year contract, whatever, and it was enough for me to look at and say, okay, this guy that's recruiting me, he's locked in on contract, he's going to be there. Well, the contract got bought out, and a new coach came in, and myself and 3 of my teammates were told that our scholarships wouldn't be renewed.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the business of college basketball, is that like nothing's guaranteed for anybody. You can have these contracts, you can have these scholarships. I think the thing that's crazy is these coaches can tell the kids whenever they recruit them, as long as I'm here, like, you're going to be good, but they don't know what can happen if they get fired and they leave. Anything can happen to their scholarship after that point. Anything can happen with the coaching staff. So that's a crazy thing. And it's such a big business that like a lot of these kids' lives and like their academics could be completely changed in a snap of a finger if they decide to change coaches. In
the 1 year that you have to sit out if you go Division I to Division I, I hope to see that change. In addition to name, image, likeness, which we'll talk more about. I mean, that's something that's on the table right now. It's actually supposed to be passed as a new rule by the NCAA back in January, but it didn't happen. But that ability to go, from one school to the next, and not to have to get the special permission, whether that's from the NCAA or from your current school, in order to go, to another institution without having to sit out. So, it was especially challenging for me because I, as a sophomore at SLU, I redshirted, and obviously SLU being Division I, if I would have gone to another Division I school and not gotten some sort of waiver, I would have had to sit out. So that's why I made the decision to go Division II, which, went to Northern Kentucky, and knew about them from SIU Edwardsville. They were in the GLVC together when they were both Division II, and they play very good basketball. So it turned out to be a good decision.
And so your first game, I believe it was your first game at Northern Kentucky, was an exhibition game that to me is probably my favorite game of your career. If you want to walk us through that experience a little bit, when you just absolutely lit up Louisville in your guys' new building.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up. It was a tough night. Had 33 on Louisville, and yes, it was an exhibition game. Caleb, I like to tell people is the game to get in the Final Four, but it was just an exhibition game. I was kind of flying under the radar because I didn't play, like I mentioned. I was a redshirt the previous year at SLU. So Rick Pitino was coaching Louisville. I want to say they were second or third, in the nation when we played them. And it was the very first game at the time. It was called the Bank of Kentucky Center. So Northern Kentucky had just built that new arena, big game, very first home opener against Louisville, and they played a zone defense, which really opened up a lot of opportunities to catch and shoot. So that first one went in, and it just was kind of a good night after that. I'll say I think I made 9 threes.
I think so. Yeah. Is there a gym that you walk into that you don't feel like you're the best shooter?
The Enterprise Center, which used to be the Chaffetz, or I'm sorry, used to be Scottrade. So, that, not to make excuses about it, but when I was at SLU, but, coming off the bench as a shooter, and you've got, 20,000 seat arena, and there's, maybe 6,000 or 7,000, but it still looks empty. And then, it's cold because they're getting ready for the hockey game that night, getting ready to put the ice down. It was a little bit intimidating, to be honest, though. Yeah, that arena, and it's funny thinking back on the Coca-Cola shootout in high school. I played there a couple times and just never really played well. So I don't know why, in hindsight, I thought that would be a good arena for myself to go, as a shooter and come in and knock down shots.
Right.
And those backdrops at those big arenas like that, especially when they're empty, they look they make the bucket look kind of odd. They make it look real far away. I don't know. I don't like it one bit.
it kind of feels like you're shooting in space. You see the ball come out of
Yeah.
your hand, and it's almost like you're tempted to look at the ball instead of the rim because you just want to make sure it's going in that general area.
Yeah, I think Caleb saw my attempt to shoot at Bud Walton Arena. That did not go as planned. Had a 20,000 seater, so I feel your pain. I feel your pain.
And
But
then so at Northern Kentucky, played really well, like you said, your first year, and I believe going into your second year there, where you were a preseason All-American. Is that correct?
Yes, had a really good first season at NKU, which was eligibility-wise was my sophomore year, and I was obviously supposed to have 2 more years after that, but I had a really bad back injury in the conference tournament that year, which was 2009. So it was the 08-09 season. I played at NKU, had a really good year, and then I was a preseason All-American going into the 2009-2010 season, but after my back injury, I just wasn't able to keep the ball bouncing, unfortunately.
And from there, it kind of spirals into some other stuff. You end up with a cancer diagnosis, and how does that whole process go from being injured, kind of thinking you might be able to play again, and then cancer comes along? What is that whole experience like for you?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you look at the way bad things happen, and it certainly seems like that that happen in multiples. So timing wise, I had just come off a back injury, and I was working to get back, to get healthy, to be able to play again, and I was really at a low point. 350 miles away from home. I felt like my whole purpose of being there in Kentucky was basketball, and on top of that, I got a taste of success that previous year. So to have it just taken away, because of my back, really put me in a bad place. And then, like I said, it was what seems like, just a blink of an eye after that the cancer diagnosis happened. So, it was really something that just made time stand still. And, all the while I was wanting to get back on the basketball court, but, when the cancer diagnosis happened, initially I just had surgery and had it taken care of, but when it really got scary, it spread to lymph nodes, and I had to come back here to the St. Louis area, did chemotherapy, and fortunately, all healthy today. It's something in the past that, like I said, I look back on, and the way it happened, timing wise, with the back injury, it's just hard not to think that the bad things happen in multiples.
yeah, and how did that all like change your outlook on life and on hoops? Like how did that change your original goals? Because I'm sure you had some higher goals for basketball and stuff before all this happened, and you weren't able to play anymore. Like how did that just change your outlook on not only basketball but life?
Well, that's a good question, Jacob. I honestly, I wanted to be doing what you're doing. I wanted to
Yeah,
play professional basketball, not in the NBA. I was realistic that that probably wasn't going to happen, but I got a taste of success, like I said, at the college level, and even though we were Division II, I still felt like I was on that path of just stick with it, and you're going to be able to make money doing this. I didn't know if it'd be a career, but I wanted to be able to
yeah,
say that I did it. So I would say it forced me to realize that it's time to think about life after basketball, and it was not something that I had really done. I made the decision to go out to Kentucky for basketball. I was studying sports business. The idea was to be a coach, and I ultimately did get the opportunity to be a graduate assistant coach while I was in evening law school. But in short, the experience just made me realize that there is so much more to life than just basketball. And when you compete at such a high level, as I'm sure you can relate to, Jacob, it's sometimes a situation where your focus gets so narrowed in on the process and the day to day and taking care of your body and preparing. So once that stops, you really realize that there's a lot more out there, and if you can find a way to take that same approach that makes you a successful athlete, a successful basketball player, if you can take that same approach to life, then there's literally nothing that you can't be good at.
so was your goal not always to go to law school until after all this had happened and you realized that was one of the things you wanted to do, and a future that you wanted to pursue after basketball?
Well, like I said, I had the redshirt year at SLU. So when I went out to Northern Kentucky, academic wise, I was a junior in school, and basketball, I was just a sophomore. So I had in my mind that I would have that additional year of eligibility, maybe get a master's degree or something like that. But then when the cancer diagnosis happened, and again after the back injury had already taken place, at some point I think I realized that it was probably more realistic to rejoin the team, as a student assistant or graduate assistant coach. And fortunately, the coach at the time at Northern Kentucky, Dave Beazle, gave me that opportunity. And I got to go and see what it was like to be a Division I college basketball coach, because Northern Kentucky made that transition from Division II to Division I. And just being able to get that experience without having to fully commit to coaching and all the sacrifices that go into that, it was really a blessing. All the while, I was working towards my law degree.
So talk to me a little bit about going to law school while coaching college basketball. Because when I was a GA, I was taking sport management classes for my master's online. I couldn't imagine even considering being in law school while being a GA. So talk to me a little bit about how difficult that was, or what that was like for you.
Well, again, the head coach at Northern Kentucky, Dave Beazle, gave me an incredible opportunity just to do it. I mean, to be able to go to law school on scholarship, I'm so thankful today, and I'm able to run my own law practice because I don't have the student loan debt. And I went at it right away. I was 27 years old. A lot of people told me I was crazy doing it, but I just knew, that was the time to get started. And again, I had the ability to do so because there's no monthly student loan payment. But Coach Beazle was incredibly, I would say, just generous with the freedom that I had to be able to put school first, because it is a big commitment. Anyone that takes that challenge on going to law school, especially with what I was doing, the evening program. So I would go to the basketball offices during the day, and more than anything, I just wanted to be seen so they knew that I was available. And it's sometimes, I'm sure you can remember, Caleb, as a GA, you're looking for things to do that you want to show that you've got something to offer. But for me, I was really committed to pursuing my law degree. So I would take my law books in the basketball office, and I'd leave the door open so that if anybody wanted to duck their head and ask me to do something, I would. Or I'd stop and help somebody get shots up, or go work out, just being around the basketball office. But I was always there with a purpose, of having to get my reading done for that night's class.
Gotcha. And so from there, like you said, you open your own practice that you run currently, but in the last couple of years, it seems that you've also found a new avenue to kind of pursue the passion of remaining in athletics or involved in athletics, with the name, image, and likeness movement going on in the NCAA right now. So if you want to just kind of talk a little bit about how you got involved with that. I know you're extremely involved in the things going on in the state of Illinois. So if you want to talk about your involvement in that and kind of how you got involved to start with in general.
Yeah, well, it all goes back to my playing days, obviously, and the experiences that I had, as a player, and not at all to say that it was a bad experience. Education is what got me here, and basketball was what opened the door to the education. So I'm thankful for all the experiences I had. But I'm an advocate for the players, so everything that I say is from that standpoint of what would be best for the athletes. And right now, as we're talking with the NCAA tournaments going on, and the bubble, to me, it's just amazing that these quote student athletes are getting tested daily, competing and doing all that they're doing, making the sacrifices that they are, so that that we're entertained with the game. So I like to just kind of call it what it is. It's big business. Count the Capital One and AT&T commercials that we're going to see over the next month. I mean, it's hundreds of millions of dollars that is going into the NCAA tournament, and it surrounds college athletics. So again, I got to see that as a player, and now as an attorney, I like to speak out when given the opportunity, and I've been fortunate to have opportunities to share my experiences and my perspective on these issues. And, I really look at name, image, likeness, or NIL for short. I like to call it NIL. NIL is a gray area where, it's been established that, everyone has the ownership of their own identity, right? The right of publicity. We all have that. And it's only the athletes that are told that, they can't own their own identity. So I think it stands for something more. It's the question of, if you don't own your own identity, what do you own? We all own that, from the moment we leave the hospital as newborns. So, I'm a firm believer in the rights of the players. And, it's not just about the money making opportunities. A lot of people are critical about, the players already get scholarships, they've got it so good. But it's this choice that's put on the players. Is it education or money, right? And education and money are not mutually exclusive. They don't need to be. But, for the quote student athletes, they're told that, hey, if you're getting this education, that's all that it can be. And we see, the band students that, with the music scholarships, they can put on a concert. The art student can sell a painting who has a scholarship. So why is it that, these athletes that have the athletic scholarships, are told that, that scholarship is all you get? That's not right. There needs to be equal treatment, equal opportunity across the board. And we're getting there. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, even someone on an academic scholarship can tutor for money and charge somebody for their tutoring services. But for example, when I was in college, even me and Caleb had a great idea that didn't last long to start some basketball training, to give basketball lessons. I'm on a basketball scholarship. I wanted to give basketball lessons, so I put my name and stuff and Caleb's name, made like some flyers, and things like that. And next thing I know, I'm getting hit up from our assistant coach, like, you got to take that down right now. You could get in trouble for that. Our compliance officer was telling me, you can't have your name on it and stuff. You can do it kind of, but you can't put your name associated with anything. It has to be your brother. So that's just the crazy thing to me, is that you can use your brains to teach somebody a subject, in a class, but you can't use your abilities and skills as a basketball player and as a teacher of the game to teach somebody how to play basketball. That just is mind blowing to me, honestly, that it's still a rule. It doesn't even make sense.
Well, it won't be. We've got maybe 5 more months. So I'm very optimistic that things are going to change. So Jacob, when you were at Central Missouri, do you think you could have made money as a college basketball player, not being paid by the school, obviously, but doing things outside, working camps and just using your celebrity that you had worked for there in Warrensburg?
I mean, the thing is with Warrensburg, Missouri, I mean, that's all there is there. Like those people bleed, UCM, UCM red, Mules basketball means a lot to a lot of those people there. And so, I'm out on the town and there's people seeing me and recognizing me and, talking to me all the time. And no doubt do I think if I would have been able to promote my name out there, it's like put some things out there as far as even, I probably could have maybe even sold autographs to some of those people there, honestly, like their kids or something would have been interested and they would have done it for that. And I mean, we hosted birthday parties and things like that for kids for like, to help raise money for our program. And I remember like these kids were so excited. They wanted so many autographs and like so many kids were coming to for autographs and parents were excited to get stuff from us. We gave them we had some game worn shoes that were like old shoes, giving those to the kids, like the way everybody reacted to that. I wonder sometimes, and I look back and think, you probably could have. And I mean, was there times where I maybe crossed the line, like someone like offered to like probably bought me a meal or something, out in Warrensburg on the town? Like, of course there was, like, it was things like that. But I just, looking back on it, probably yes. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see now, I guess, hopefully, if this rule gets changed, if some people can, even at these smaller schools, at least make a little bit of money, because especially at D2s, some of even the best players at these Division II schools that have a huge following and have a lot of fan support, those kids aren't on full ride scholarships. So if they could get a little extra money here and there, just doing some local things around the community, I mean, I think it could be really beneficial for those kids to be able to pay for the rest of their school even.
Totally agree. Have you ever talked to your teammates, your professional teammates, about these things and some of the restrictions that you had in college?
I haven't really talked to any of them much about it. The thing is like these first 2 years, most of my teammates, have been from smaller schools and similar situations as me. So I didn't really think of it. It wasn't like I've played with Duke or Kentucky, like someone from a blue blood where it's like they can 100% make money off their name, image, and likeness. So I haven't really asked any of them about it, but um, I know for a fact that like one of my teammates, Spencer Reeves, like when I went back to his hometown with him, it was a million people knew exactly who he was. His brother's going to play for Oklahoma in the NCAA tournament. His brother's Austin Reeves for Oklahoma's first team All Big 12 guy. They're both gonna. Austin's gonna end up being a pro player. They're from a town of 1,500 people in Arkansas, and like that whole area is like Reeves brothers, Reeves brothers, Reeves brothers, and I used to always think like whenever we were in college and I would go visit him or he would go back home, I was like, man, you could probably be making some serious cash off promoting your name and doing basketball camps. And he even had some basketball camps once he graduated that he made some good money off of some Spencer Reeves, basketball camps and stuff like that. So like there's no doubt that these players, even at these smaller universities, could benefit from this a lot.
Right. And I think for me, that's the thing is a lot of the pushback, I think, from the public was that it would only be the people at the large schools playing the biggest sports earning the money. But in my mind and in my eye, that is like couldn't be more inaccurate. So for example, like Cobb's thinking on a autograph selling space, but like you can't tell me that there wouldn't be a car dealership in town that wouldn't want to like just have a picture of him and Spencer Reeves when they were the two best players on the team and two of the best players in the conference, like just outside their building, and pay them $500 or whatever for that. And even on minor levels like that, the fact that they can't capitalize that on that at all, or technically taking a meal for free at a restaurant is illegal. Like that's where it gets to the point of like, okay, what basically once you get to college and you're an athlete, you just are owned by the university, and it's unnecessary in a lot of different ways because it's not the university's paying these kids. It's literally, like you said, them having control of their own likelihood, like who they are as a person.
No doubt. And I couldn't agree more with what you guys are saying and the small town passion for sports. And that's not just Division 1. I think Division 2, Division 3, athletes that are well known around campus, well known in the community will benefit greatly from this. And that's one of the big lies that we've heard over the years on this topic from the NCAA. It's only going to be the top level men's basketball and football players that are able to do anything with this, and everyone else is going to suffer because if the money goes to the basketball and football players, then we're going to have to cut sports, and the sky's going to fall. We've heard that for so long, and it's so untrue. And I really think female athletes will benefit from this, especially with social media. It's going to be a big part of this, and we could have our own topic of discussion there, but the Olympic sports I think will benefit greatly, the athletes in those sports. So it's not just the big time college football and men's basketball that will benefit from name, image, likeness. It's all athletes, and it doesn't have to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? As former college kids, I'm sure we can remember that just having money to go get a pizza on a Friday night and take your girlfriend out on a date. I mean that matters. So those opportunities
100%.
need to be there. And I think, to have the name, image, likeness rights come along as they have, it's beyond time. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it develop over the coming months.
Do you think this current sorry, you can go ahead if you want.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Caleb. Do you think this current hashtag like not NCAA property movement that's going on right now on social media with I think there's 15 athletes currently competing in March Madness that are started this off. I think the first tweet was from Geo Baker, and he kind of just said what we've been talking about, everybody has a right to their own name, image, and likeness from birth, and why can't we use it? And they have like a list of kind of like demands they want from the NCAA. I'll pull them up here. They want the NCAA rule changes to allow athletes freedom to secure representation and receive pay for their name, image, and likeness by July 1st. A meeting with Mark Emmert, meetings with state and federal lawmakers, and a Supreme Court to a Supreme Court ruling in support of plaintiff/college athletes in Alston versus NCAA, to not give the NCAA any power, deny us equal freedoms. And how big do you think it is that these athletes now are using their own platforms? Because these kids have tens of thousands, if sometimes hundreds of thousands followers on social media platforms, how big do you think it is for all this NIL stuff that these kids are starting to use their platforms as kind of a voice and a way to bring this issue up and bring it all to light and getting organized in it too?
Yeah, the organization piece of it is a big part of it. And, it's great to see the athletes use their platform to influence change. And, we've seen so much progress in that area over the past year. Thinking back a couple years ago, I don't know if you guys remember, but LeBron James got involved with California's state law, and the governor of California signed the NIL law into effect, and it was on LeBron James' HBO show. So I think it really all starts there with him at the top, and he was using his platform to make that change happen. So that was really the first piece of this, is seeing the California legislation happen, and it's sort of come from there. There are 5 other states that have passed state laws, and dozens of others who are working on doing the same thing. But back to what you were saying, Jacob, with the the current movement from the athletes and what's going on specifically in the NCAA tournament right now. It's great to see the athletes use the platform that they have, the attention that they can get now with social media. I saw Geo Baker's tweet. I want to say it was like 30,000 people had liked it or commented on it, retweeted.
Yeah.
So the interaction that the players are getting from the fans and the followings that they have, it really allows them to use their voice, and as you say, do it in an organized fashion, because it's time. And when there are those obvious inequalities, it's easy to point out. And I'm familiar with the tweet that you referenced from Gio. He made that point that I had said earlier about those other students who are on scholarships not being restricted. So if there's anything short of equality, it's not enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the underlying principle right now. We're seeing the NCAA really try to thread the needle, right? And they want to say, oh, we're going to give all these robust, expansive NIL rights, and you can go make a music CD, and you can start your own business and all these things. Well, I mean, that's nice, but there's some real questions that are at the heart of this. One that I like to point out is whether the athletes will be able to have their own shoe deals. For example, if you're at a Nike school, can you have your own Adidas contract, or can you have your own Nike contract and wear your own signature shoe? The schools very much don't want to see that happen. The NCAA does not want to see that type of freedom for the players, because the obvious outcome will be that there's less money that's going to the schools. So it's all about equality, and to give anything less than the equal opportunities to have the quote guardrails in place, as the NCAA likes to call them, it's not going to be enough. And there are enough people now who are outspoken about it. There are professional athletes who speak out about it, and as you mentioned, Caleb or Jacob, rather, the athletes are having this platform now, and really bringing awareness to the issue. And I think it's going to be enough altogether here in these next 3-4 months. I'm really optimistic that there's going to be a federal law passed to have a uniform standard across the country for name, image, likeness.
And when you talk about inequalities right now, I think we kind of have to bring up what's going on like in the women's NCAA bubble. There's been videos come out of the bubble for the women's NCAA tournament of some pretty severe inequality in their facilities and their accommodations compared to the men's side. If you want to kind of touch on that, and obviously that doesn't flow necessarily right into what we're talking about, but your thoughts on that and kind of where the NCAA should go from there.
Well, it does, Caleb, in the sense that the athletes are speaking out, right? And they have social media and they have smartphones. So when you've got a pile of yoga mats for the women's tournament and then a hotel ballroom full of, state-of-the-art equipment for the men's, it's one of those obvious areas where the NCAA is not acting as they say. They want to, say that it's equal, and, there's, opportunities for all athletes, and just about all of us are going pro in something other than sports, right? So the SEC football is no different than Division III volleyball type approach. It's nice that they say those things, but Jay Billis always says, and I follow Jay Billis in a lot of areas. He's very outspoken about this. Watch what the NCAA does. Don't watch what they say. Watch what they do. And with this issue of the women's amenities or lack thereof at their tournament, it's pathetic, really. I mean, I don't know how the NCAA could think that that would not get noticed. I mean, how in the planning does that not get picked up on, that we here we're going to have X for the men's tournament, but Y for the women's tournament? It was amazing, but what was even more amazing was to see how quickly the situation was corrected, right? And then the NCAA, as it's famous for doing, wants to pat itself on the back after the problems pointed out. So here we go. I saw the tweet. It was all excited, flexing on what they didn't do initially, but had made up for. So I think now there's a facility with actual weights and not just a pile of yoga mats.
Right. And you saw them, like, their original statement almost doubled down on like trying to defend themselves, saying that there wasn't the necessary space for that at the women's facilities. And then instantly you saw like the female athletes coming back with videos of just wide open ballrooms with nothing in them, where there was clearly room for more facilities to be taken care of.
Thank God we live in the time that we do, so that that kind of hypocrisy can be exposed, right? It's really exposed very easily with a smartphone.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the athlete I think whose tweet like blew up the most was her name's like Sedona Prince, I think, from Oregon, and she's like basically like TikTok famous,
huge on TikTok.
And like has like over a million followers and stuff, I think, on TikTok. So and she probably can't benefit off of any of that either, right? Because even those athletes, if their names on a social media account or on like a YouTube account, can they benefit off that currently with the current state of the rules?
No.
Yeah,
that falls under impermissible benefits, and that issue that you point out, Jacob, with the social media followings, I think is a big part of why this is progressing. I mean, you have quote influencers on campus, and even during COVID, I don't know if you guys saw some of those ads. I think Mizzou and Baylor both had their quote student influencers, walking around their masks and modeling and of course paying them, right? They're paying these influencers, but yet here you have the athletes on your campus that have hundreds of thousands of followers themselves, and they're not even allowed to go outside and profit on that. And you're going to directly pay other students. It's the definition of hypocrisy.
Without a doubt. And so what does it look like then? Obviously, it seems like all things are heading in direction of federal law, like you said. But what happens if the NCAA tries to stand firm on their stance of there's just no area for extra benefits for athletes? What does that look like? Is it lawsuits? Is it kids taking other routes? What does that area look like?
So my opinion is the most powerful and impactful piece of this is the state legislation. Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned, Caleb, I was working with the Illinois State Representative Emmanuel Welch from up in Chicago to get Illinois to pass a law, identical bill as what was passed in California. And there are 5 other states that have followed California. We came up a little bit short in Illinois. I think it made it through the House of Representatives, but didn't pass a vote in the Senate. But there are now 6 states who have passed the laws, which would allow for name, image, likeness rights for the athletes. In Florida, the state of Florida goes into effect July 1st. So that's just over 3 months from now. We'll have one state, the state of Florida, where athletes in that state can benefit from their name, image, likeness, have endorsements and commercials and social media marketing, putting on camps, as we've talked about. And then the other 49 states, that not yet being allowed. So obviously the topic that comes up with that is recruiting. And, if you're a 4 or 5-star recruit, how do you not look at that when you're making a decision about where to go? Of course, you're going to go to a Florida school and get the scholarship and everything that Alabama's offering and then some. So, that's right around the corner. And the lawsuit that you ask about, I think what we'll probably see over the next 2-3 months is the NCAA seek some sort of injunction to keep the state of Florida's law from going into effect. And, you know, the outcome on that, you guys' guess is just as good as mine. But before that, actually, you know, less than 2 weeks from now, there's an oral argument before the United States Supreme Court on that Alston case that, Jacob, you had mentioned. It was I think the fourth demand listed by the players that, you know, the court rule a specific way. And obviously, you know, the players don't have the ability to determine how the court's going to rule. But that case is, you know, as I said, 11 days, I think, from having the oral arguments, and that's the United States Supreme Court, the Supreme Court of the land. Every other court has to follow. So whatever the outcome on this Alston case will become the law of the land, and it's really exciting. It's an antitrust case where the schools are perhaps not going to be able to, you know, conspire and collude to keep the benefits that a scholarship includes capped at the cost of attendance, right? And that change to the full cost of attendance is one area we've seen where, in addition to your scholarship, you get as an athlete the full cost of attendance. Both the trial court and the appellate court in that Alston case ruled that the NCAA is in violation of antitrust law, and that there cannot be any limit on benefits under a scholarship so long as those are, quote, tethered to education. So what is and what is not tethered to education? Can you get a Ferrari to go back and forth to class? I mean, that's technically tethered to education. So a lot is going to be decided based on the outcome of this case. And I'm optimistic that the players will prevail as they have at the trial court and the appellate court levels.
What does the future of that look like for you? So I know, like you said, you're in it for on the side of the athlete, like you just want to see athletes earn what, or have the ability to earn what they're capable of. But you also talked about possible representation of athletes before. I know you have the website. I believe it's nameimagelikeness.com. Are you looking then in that end to kind of help athletes as a representative? Are you looking to kind of be an overall broad spectrum fact person, or what does that look like for you if we have these laws passed and they are able to have representation and profit off their NIL?
Well, there's so much uncertainty with it right now, Caleb. It's hard to give a definitive answer on what it is that I'm going to ultimately do in the area of name, image, likeness. As you mentioned, I have the domain nameimagelikeness.com. And, you know, I built what I believe is a great website that's offering a lot of services to the athletes, you know, to improve their overall college experience. So I'm really leaning towards the approach of being a non-agent sports attorney, and, you know, specifically reviewing contracts. You know, the deals that these players get, a name, image, likeness deal, should result in a document, a legal document, that being a contract that will secure your right to be paid for the work that you do, or whatever it is that the company is getting from you. You know, you will have a document that secures that. So obviously a very important document that should be reviewed by an attorney, and if need be, revised on the behalf of the players. And, you know, I bring up the role of the agents. That's one of the big unknown parts of name, image, likeness. What will agents be allowed to do? Is the NCAA going to try to control the agents? Is there going to be an NCAA agent certification program? And if so, who's going to oversee that? So that's a possibility. I'm not saying that there's no chance that I wouldn't go that agent route if ultimately that looks to be the way to have the most impact. But, you know, I know that there's going to be a great need for attorney work. And, you know, there's so much that's happening in this area of name, image, likeness right now. The schools are doing a lot of athletic departments are really getting out in front of this. And kind of like what you guys were saying earlier, there's small towns where the school is everything in the town. Nebraska is a school that comes to mind, and Colorado, same way. I mean, those schools are going to do great under name, image, likeness, as I think a lot of the big time Division I schools in the Midwest will, because of their fan base, because of the the lack of competition from other sports, the professional leagues, not being there in that city or
Hmm.
whatever. So there's again a ton of uncertainty with it, but the obvious need will be for there to be someone in the corner for the athletes and for resources to be there. I really think legal services and tax services have to be the focus. And I'm not a CPA or an accountant, but I've been making some moves to work closely with the financial folks, the CPAs, financial advisors who can get involved and offer that side of it, because at a minimum everybody's going to have to pay taxes. Even if you're only making a little bit of money you put on a camp, well, not all of that money that you see is going to be yours. You're going to have to file a tax return, and probably in multiple states. If you're an athlete who's putting on a camp in your hometown, but then you're also away at school and making some money there, then your tax return is going to be rather complex. You shouldn't just be going to H&R Block, because you're looking at a federal tax return, the perhaps contract work you've done with the 1099, and as I mentioned, multiple states. It's complex. So I really think it's going to be established as a new area. On the topic of agents, obviously there are agents and professional athletes have those, but I think this role of the advisor for college athletes is going to be different, right? They're students, and I think having that view of education as being very important is going to be critical for anyone that's getting access to the players. I think there's a great opportunity for this to be a distraction, and to not be a blessing, but really more of a burden. And to keep that from happening, in closing on this thought, it really comes down to what resources will be there. It can't just be brand building. Let's get your social media followers up so that you can do something with it, right? I mean, that to me is the difference between helping somebody load their hook and getting the bait already versus, okay, you caught a fish, now what are we going to do with it? How are you going to eat it, right? And that latter part is what I want to focus on. Is, okay, you did something with this, right? You've got a deal. Now what? How is this going to be a good thing for you, as opposed to distraction that's taking away from your athletic performance and your performance academically.
No doubt, no doubt. And we definitely appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else you want to touch on in regard to this topic before we let you go?
Stay tuned is the last thought I guess I would share. I mean, I think that, with everything up in the air right now, it's important to know how it all shakes out. This Alston case that I brought up, I believe in June, we'll have a ruling from the United States Supreme Court on that, and that will decide a lot as far as how this is going to look. The Ncaa was supposed to announce a rule change to allow name, image, likeness back in January, and the announcement was that the rules are going to affect in August of this year. So again, this isn't hypothetical anymore. I've been talking about this for years, so it's easy to just ramble on about it and talk about it like it's pie in the sky, but this is real. It's getting real very fast. So for the athletes, for the parents, for anyone working in the athletic department, the important takeaway and the message I have is familiarize yourself and then know what ultimately is going to come of this, because eligibility is at stake, obviously, and there are a lot of legal implications and tax consequences, as I mentioned.
For sure. And we just want to say again, thank you so much for coming on and joining us. Thank you for being an advocate for the athlete. I don't know that I know another person more educated on this topic than you. So we really appreciate you coming on and kind of educating our listeners. I know we have quite a few kids who are either high school athletes, college athletes, or even guys who were college athletes. So I think this will be a huge topic for our listening, and even those who aren't athletes, who might just be fans of yours or fans of Cobb, and those who might see it one way and think that kids don't have the right to earn this, to hopefully kind of shed some light on why it's a good thing, and overall should be a right that these athletes have. So we appreciate you coming on and shedding some light with us.
Thank you, Caleb. Thanks for having me on. Jacob, it was a pleasure being with you. Anybody with
Pleasure talking.
Yeah, anyone with questions is welcome to contact me. Check out the site nameimagelikeness.com. And as this all develops, again, I think getting those answers to what it's ultimately going to look like is most important. So I'm a resource to anyone who has questions.
Without a doubt.
Thank
Again,
you. Thank you for coming
thanks
on.
for coming on. Yeah. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you get to watch some hoops and get out of the office a little bit.
Oh yeah, I'm going to the couch right now.
Perfect, man.
You guys have a good one.
You too. Thanks.
See you guys.
See ya.
See it. Again, thanks to Dustin Maguire for coming on and sharing some of his thoughts and some of his knowledge on the whole name, image, and likeness movement and what he's working for the athletes and what this could mean in the future of NCAA sports for these players and how they could use their name, image, and likeness, which, like he said, we all have the right to from birth, to profit off of a little bit, because what college kid couldn't use some extra money or, if they needed to, like you said, buy some pizza on the weekend or do this and that or the other, because I've seen college kids and I've had teammates who are really struggling. They don't come from a good background, and if they were able to make some money off just their name and just be able to do some things with their talents that they have playing basketball or football or baseball or any sport or track and field, it could benefit those kids a lot.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the biggest thing for me is there are a lot of people, I think that we know even, who think that athletes just receiving scholarships is enough. And I would say maybe from the university, that's enough. But
yeah,
but at the end of the day, like, every single person in the country has the right to use their skills to get paid for the job that they do. Like, nobody's going to work and not getting paid for it, right? Or nobody's going to have a skill and just like not benefit off that. So the thing is, yeah, you having a scholarship and you going to school for free and living for free or whatever, sure, from the university, that might be enough. But then to say, well, you also can't earn any money outside of this either. Like, that's when it gets to be a major issue that I don't understand how anyone can be on the side of the NCAA with. Like, just telling anyone in general that they can't profit off their skill doesn't make any sense to me.
And I think the big thing that a lot of people don't understand, that I hope they take away from this podcast, is that the athletes and the people involved in this movement are not asking the NCAA and the universities to pay these kids for their services other than a scholarship. Like, these kids don't want any money from the school itself or the NCAA itself. They want the opportunity to do things outside of, playing the game and stuff, and using that brand, that image that they've built from playing on the court or on the field, and take that to make money off of, whether it's a commercial, a shoe deal, anything, running basketball camps with their name on it that they can use. It's not money from the NCAA or from the institution itself. It's a different income source coming from outside, but that brand is built by playing those college sports.
Absolutely. And again, if anyone needs some more information or is looking to kind of educate themselves a little bit more, Dustin's website, nameimagelikeness.com, is an absolutely fantastic place to start. He is, like I said, probably, I don't even want to say probably anymore, without a doubt, the most knowledgeable person that I know on the topic. And he really is out there to educate. It's not, he's not a guy just doing it for his benefit because he thinks he might be an agent. Like, he is looking to be an advocate for the student athletes and educate the public on why this is a good thing. So appreciate everyone for listening. I feel like we had a lot of good information in this episode. If you have any questions for us or have any topics that you might want to see us talk about, let us know on our socials. Make sure to give us a like and follow at Home and Away Podcast on Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you may listen. Make sure you give us a subscription on YouTube as well. And we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.